Okay, let's go to our commentators. Susan Smith, what's your assessment of the debate tonight? What did you see? What do you think happened?
Well, Peter, I think a lot of people would have very quickly turned their channel over to watch Leila Annie Fernandez advance the semifinals or the finals in the U.S. Open. There was more solid back and forth there than there was in the format that debate presented. The format was awful. Nearly every leader was interrupted in their answer delivery. So it was very difficult at times to get a sense of the exact positions on people. I don't know that there were any particular knockout blows or anything to that effect. I'm not sure it was that effective. It started late for many Canadians. It had competition in terms of other things in the world. So I don't know. It was a bit of a dog's breakfast, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, we'll circle back and get into some of the detail. Let me start, Kate Harrison, with your initial assessment of what you saw here tonight.
Yeah, I don't think you would know that it was Erin O'Toole's first English language debate. I thought that he answered the questions clearly and concisely and in a very calm way, despite the format being pretty chaotic at times. I think Justin Trudeau did not have a good night tonight. I think he looked quite frantic at times, and I think particularly on some of the more social issues that will appeal to progressives, on climate change, on reconciliation. He did really struggle in his exchanges with Jagmeet Singh and with ANNAMIE Paul. Also still that lingering ambiguity on capital gains tax on the sale of your principal residence. I think that's going to dog him in the coming days.
Kim Wright, Kim, what's your assessment?
Look, it's a poor debater that blames the format. And if you're watching Liberal Twitter right now, and even Susan's comments tonight, this was a format that was terrible. Really, it was more that the Prime Minister's answers right from the get-go. He was on the ropes. He was a bit frantic. He was as thin-skinned as we have ever seen him throughout the campaign and even in his 6 years of governing. For Jagmeet Singh, he did what he needed to do, came across as authentic. He poked holes in the legacy of the last 6 years of the Trudeau government of promises, 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 and nothing gets delivered, including at the end, as viewers were seeing, that Jagmeet Singh and the New Democrats have brought up paid sick leave, extended paid sick leaves 22 times over the last 18 months. And Justin Trudeau has either pushed it off as a provincial problem or somebody else's problem, but now, miraculously, in an election campaign, has seen the light on it. That's not leadership, that's passing the buck, and we've all seen too many Lucy's with the footballs.
All right, Susan, let me have you respond to that.
Well, I think the NDP get confused at times with Section 91 and Section 92 of the Constitution that says who's got division over health care, who's got responsibility over health care, and that's the provinces. And the one thing Mr. Trudeau has demonstrated is he actually has an ability to work with the provinces. He did it with childcare, eight agreements that have been signed. Mr. O'Toole wants to tear them up. And he's down the road on pharmacare. But the reality was that and he said it, the pandemic kicked in there. So the one thing I would say, Mr. Trudeau did, but hang on though. Mr. Trudeau did defend his record. I think at times his tone was defensive. That is an accurate assessment with the pile-on. I think occasionally for the other leaders, they didn't let facts get in the way of a soundbite when they were making their accusations at Mr. Trudeau. He did defend the record. The Liberals do have a solid record on climate change, a solid plan, and a solid costed platform. And that's what he was trying to contrast himself with the other leaders on that. Whether or not it penetrated, whether or not people are watching right till the very bitter end is another story. But I think people will look at the overall record, and that's what they'll make their decisions on.
Kate, was there enough of one of the things I'm seeing people on social media talk about, and we're bringing Winston C. in a little bit here to talk about that, but this was the opportunity for a lot of Canadians to watch and actually hear more detail about each of the party policies. And did we get that today? If you were watching tonight to help make your choice and to learn more about what's on offer from these parties, sure, everybody should go to the websites, go to media reports, credible media reports, read the platforms before you cast a ballot. But if you were watching tonight to hear what each leader stood for in detail, what are your three top climate change policies? Walk me through it. What does it mean for the way I live? Did we get that tonight?
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. I think if anything, you heard a bit more about what, Justin Trudeau hasn't done. And that was really just a pile on from all of the other leaders. I think the closest we got, Peter, was probably in the response to the question that was posed about supporting seniors. There were some very specific measures that were talked about by each of the candidates. If you were looking to really dig deep on concrete actions on reconciliation, concrete actions on climate change beyond missed targets, this debate probably did not produce answers that you were looking for.
Kim, what's your answer to that question? Were voters well served tonight if they were tuning in to be able to measure their leadership choices and measure what the parties have put in the window for them?
Yeah, I think if you start to look at the entirety of the 2 hours, and most people would have tuned out or flipped channels in between, I think you saw some stark differences. Things like a guaranteed annual income from JAGMEET and the New Democrats. I think you saw some really important conversations around reconciliation and making sure that those boil water advisories really do finally need to come to an end, and put a human face on that. ANNAMIE Paul did a good job of that as well, making sure that people saw the humanity behind some of the policy. And we all talk about politics every day, all day, but it's what does politics mean to your life? Can you afford a place to live? Are there rental supports in place? We can talk about wage subsidies all day long, but at the end of the day, if people aren't safe in their workplaces and people can't afford to live in their communities, all of these conversations are going to keep going in circles.